ni eri awon na yo oba bo ule ogun aye ri isora pe opo ara pe
mi opa kere wedu tera we nera we do tera we nera wa manama me aji no ni e tu po e tu ku kwa pe era egba wa ri so ma ra wi do mi opa kere wedu kele ki odo di ge me wa ri aye awera wo isa unwa yi era wo isa unwa he owu ga ga mi ya ri je mo do di ge me ko ma lo ìpín sọ̀yányà ìpín wẹ́fà ánà ìrètí ìpín wẹ́ níyàwó ẹ̀mọ́dọ̀lìgì rẹ̀ ní gòdèbò èpá máyì wọ́dì máyìrì wẹ̀ ìrí ara rẹ̀ má pològbà ẹ̀nà rẹ̀ o awẹ́rí arò rẹ̀ awẹ́rí arò rẹ̀.
ISELOGBE, Edo State people and Nigerians across the world, greetings to you all. Please, if you are joining this broadcast, please help share if you could. My name is Comrade Lamte Oriahi, and I just thought on this day, the first day of January 2026, that I come and do a review of 2025 because the events that climaxed 2025 for the Benin, most especially, and of course, for Edo State, particularly coming from social media, was not a very pleasant one. And of course, as we begin a new year, a lot of questions are in the minds, of people. Are we going to continue from where we stopped in 2025, or are we going to just stop a little bit and ponder and see how things could get better from 2026 going forward? But I like to say, and I dare say, that a lot of what characterized the clamors of 2025 were very shameful, and they do not in any way represent who we are as a people. I know that for sure, because over the course of the last many years since I've been on this earth, some of what we saw in 2025 can best be imagined. And seeing those things happen, and with the rate, with which they were happening, honestly, is a shocker that many of us are still trying to understand. And to that extent, I just thought I come out here to do a review. Unfortunately, we are talking about things that we cannot consider glorious at all. They are in no way, shape, or form near glory, as it were. There were other things in the States that were kind of, clouded by acts that are very, despicable. And to that extent, other things were happening that were not getting any attention because the focus was on some of these issues that one would regard as very despicable. And unfortunately, some of those issues were issues, highly propagated by Benin's, many of whom, some of whom, or many of whom, all of whom I regard as, highly misguided. For instance, we have a government in a state, in Edo State, that would say accelerated her governance in 2025. And as we speak, we cannot have a holistic review of what this government did, the government of Okpebholo, in 2025, because a lot of other matters were clouding the attention of the people, and therefore nobody was really focusing on what was happening on the ground. And right now, people are just left, to wonder how did this government of Okpebholo fare in 2025? because as we speak, that is not it's not a topical matter. It's also very sad to observe that former Governor Godwin Obaseki left office over a year ago. And because of all of these, matters that have shrouded major issues in the state, former Governor Obaseki again, towards the end of 2025, became a more topical issue than other matters ordinarily that should advance, the cause of the people of Edo State. But because these matters are very fundamental and they are matters that we cannot wave aside, we must talk about them. And that is why I am going to start, this episode today, on the issues that had to do with the molestation of our own brother, Don Pedro Obaseki. I don't want to play any of those videos anymore because many of you may have seen, those videos. And personally, I came out here a few days ago while that, very despicable event happened, and of course I condemned that particular, act carried out by some of these misguided young people. I condemned it because it is not part of what we want to be known for. And if it has happened to Don Pedro, it has the capacity to happen to any other person in the state, irrespective. There's been widespread condemnation all across the world over that particular incident. And of course, I remember also saying that, because of all of these, the Edo State government needs to take action. The palace itself needs to issue a statement. While this despicable action took place, we also saw a very deliberate attempt by a handful of persons from the state to consistently drag the palace into the conversation, to consistently misinform the people of Edo State and Nigerians, to consistently drag attention away from where attention needed to be. And some of these human beings in, the action, inaction, and all of this of some of these human beings have become major issues that have characterized, the last quarter majorly of 2025. And as we speak, some of them have become very, very emboldened. They've doubled down. Every day, they must speak about the Oba of Benin. They must speak about the palace of the Oba of Benin. They must try to drag the palace into the mud. They've continued to do that. And to some people, it would seem like it's because of what happened to Don Pedro. But let us not forget that before the incident that, happened with Don Pedro, some of these human beings, have been on this subject, dragging the palace of the Oba of Benin into every issue, maligning the palace, doing all sorts of things. Some things that many of us never imagined would be possible in this kingdom, more so perpetrated by people that we have known to be Benin's. That maybe some people are now beginning to sit down to probably ask, are you sure these people are truly Benin's? Some of them. And because of these actions by some of these people, other people that are not Benin's have now also, got themselves into the same macabre dance. And you see a handful of them doing some of these things that they are doing. Sadly, this is where we are. And this is the story that ended 2025. And somehow, for some of us, we are hopeful that this will not be a story that will characterize 2026. But like the Benin man says, "Aradolonyaku ikuyero." An error left unrefuted will always lead to intellectual immorality. But I want to, use this medium to particularly salute the Palace of the Oba of Benin for providing clarity. Many of you may have also seen this statement released by the Palace of the Oba of Benin. Of course, distancing the palace from that incident involving Don Pedro. Of course, the palace advising that Edos and Benin people should not take laws into their hands, which means that the palace effectively have condemned the action itself. Like all of the nonsense that was being propagated to say, oh, they were sent by this or by that in the palace and blah, 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 blah. And of course, this letter made it clear that. And I did say, you understand, it's unfortunate that we've gotten ourselves to this point. I did say that for every right-thinking Benin person, there is no way, the palace will order anybody to do such a thing to Pedro. Or to anybody at that. The palace it's not what the palace is known for. The palace cannot even do anything like that. Not just to Pedro or to anybody as such. But it's important. This is where I'm trying to start my broadcast from. So that we can address some of these issues concerning the palace, concerning the Pedro, concerning all of these issues. Just to put things in perspective. Like I said earlier, an error that is left unrefuted would always lead to intellectual immorality. And some of these human beings that are, doing what they are doing, they are sowing a very, very bad narrative, a non-existent narrative. And some people who are highly misguided appear to be believing, playing along, not really understanding. And which is why I want to try to see how we can clear some things here. Now, while I have condemned, the manhandling of Don Pedro and the action of those, highly misguided young people, who did what they did to Pedro, highly condemnable. With this letter, I hope that the law cannot take its course on that particular matter. But why we condemn that? It's also important to state, I also stated in my last broadcast, that some statements made by Don Pedro in recent time, I see Don Pedro is a custodian of the Benin tradition, more or less. He has spoken so much to promote, to preserve, and to protect the tenets of the Benin tradition. However, I did also say that some of his statements in recent time seem to contravene some things that some of us know that Don Pedro had always, stand for. Some of these comments he has made, and he has even tried to provide clarity on, they honestly don't represent the same traditional tenets that he himself has always represented. Now, he has tried to provide clarity on the issue of Edo, ISELOGBE, and all of that. And the reason why this is important that we make clarity on, because a lot of people have tried to jump on that, to try to exonerate, so to speak. Like I said, don't forget, because as I'm making this broadcast, I'm also referring to my last broadcast. Whatever is happening right now, all of us, overtly or covertly, we are victims of whatever is happening right now to us and to this kingdom. And we are also culprits based on the narrative that we are sowing, all of us. But let's make clarity here. ISELOGBE can be equated, if you juxtapose the Benin Kingdom with the British Kingdom, for instance, the United Kingdom. Now, in England, in the UK, you often hear long may the king reign. Okay, long may the king reign. In some contexts, you hear people say, in the name of the king, or in the name of the queen, when the queen was there. Now, you never hear long may the British people reign, or long may the English people reign. Right? It is long may the king reign. Now, this statement is never, okay, about any particular individual who is sat on the throne of the British monarchy. It is not about any particular queen or king that is sat on the British monarchy. It is about the monarchy itself. It is about the throne. Long may the king reign. Long live the king. Right? Now, the reason why this is important is because this particular statement of prayer, as the case is, okay, is one that ties, it's a knot that ties the British people together. The monarchy and the people, highly intertwined. Which means that when you talk about the British history today, there is no way you can have a British history without the monarchy. The history of Britain is intertwined, okay, with the monarchy. So there is no separation between the English people and the British monarch, because the history of these people is leading together. And so when the British people say, long live the king, it presupposes that so long as the king liveth, the British people live it. Please, if you want to share this broadcast, I will appreciate it. Okay? Now, what it means is that so long as the British people lives, I mean, so long as the king lives or the monarchy lives, because when I say a king now, it now makes it look like a particular human being. No. So long as the monarchy lives, exists, the English people or the British people will continue to live. So when the Benin man says, Obaratok, it is not a narrow reference to any particular person sat as the Oba of Benin. It is, a global reference to the throne of the Oba of Benin. In the same guise, like I explained that right now with the British people, that so long as the Oba lives and the throne lives and the monarchy of the Benin Kingdom lives, the Benin people will also live. Now, if you break this down, for every Benin man, I want you to just take, just reason this out a little bit and ask yourself a very fundamental question. And that question is, if you take the palace of the Oba Benin out of the equation, who are you? What is your identity? Because there is no way you as an average Benin man will want to explain who you are, your being, your identity, without tying that your identity to the monarchy of the kingdom. Now, if you remove that monarchy, you don't exist. You are just a nobody. You are not a Benin person. If you remove the palace of the Oba of Benin out of the equation of your own history, of your own identity, then you don't have any identity. This is why when Pedro tried to defend that if you do here at talk, okay, his explanation is already naturally embedded in Obaga Tokbe. that we all in this lifetime that we are now grew up to meet, to know. Iviedo here at Okbe is already embedded in that matter. Now, the context with which Don Pedro used this same Iviedo here at Okbe was a context that nobody would agree with. As a matter of fact, if Don Pedro is not an Obaseki, and of course with his own, intellectual sagacity as one that has been a forerunner, for the preservation of the culture of the kingdom. You understand what I'm saying? Now, if he was on the other side, not on Obaseki, I am sure that he would jump very strongly with better words, better conviction to tell Nigerians and the world that Iviedo here at Okbe as being used by anybody is wrong. But when you look at the context where he used it, the context with which he used it, it felt like it was an attempt, to play by the same playbook that certain human beings that have become quite recalcitrant on this social media are playing by. And because many of us can use our tongue to count our teeth, people can safely assume that Governor Obaseki is probably the head of this recalcitrant syndrome that is, going about. And I've always questioned, what is the aim of this whole negative agenda? And I think the aim is to try to bring down the palace, to water down the potency and the influence of the palace. And of course, to confuse and, create a problem amongst the Benin's. Because before this time, before this whole Obaseki, former Governor Obaseki's misdemeanor with a lot of these, people that he's using currently, I mean, we've never had any argument whatsoever regarding this subject. There's been no argument. Nobody has been. There's been no issue until a lot of things started coming, as a fallout of Obaseki's governance over Edo State. You understand the picture from what I'm saying, and all of that. So I stand, to of course debunk the several submissions made by Don Pedro Obaseki, with all due respect, to say those explanations given over his use of Iviedo here at Okbe, they are honestly, explanations that betrays, some of the things that he himself has, been known to have stood for, towards, taking a very strong stand for in the past. And so, because I am one of those who have listened to him, learned a lot from him as well. His lecture on this Iviedo here at Okbe has no place at all with our history. It is like trying to now, trying to sow a seed that the people will confuse the people, and that the people naturally, a lot of them will not agree with. You understand? Because, like I said previously, the Benin's have come from a very long time. This monarchy is thousands of years, old, and we've seen things in the past as history, tells us. There's been a lot that has happened in the past. You understand? But the establishment of Oba at Okbe, is a constant by the Benin's, and generations after generations, it's always been known to be like that. Now, I talked about the context earlier. when I mention the context, it is very likely also that under a different environment, without the issues that have climaxed to this point, if Don Pedro would use this Iviedo here at Okbe, it probably will not make any, will not raise any eyebrow, so to speak. It will just be a natural process of, embellishment, more or less. Okay. There's a videos that have circulated, very wide, where Don Pedro was seen as saying Obaga to he retracted. I said, no, I'm very sorry for saying that. Rather, if you do here talk be, it's very provocative, to be honest. That definitely would provoke a lot of people. You understand the picture from what I'm saying now? And at another, event, he doubled down to try to explain. And for people who are not Beninese, they will see this, the way he explains it, to buy it. He tried to explain that, if there are no Beninese, there won't be Oba. Of course, if there are no British people, there won't be the King of Britain, or there won't be the monarchy in Britain. You understand what I'm saying now? But even that argument itself is flawed. It's flawed because, like I said earlier, the British people and the English people are closely intertwined. Okay, they become very inseparable, more or less. One meets the other and the other meets one. Okay, the palace of the Oba of Benin, Oba Atokbe, as the case is, also means the Beninese, and the Beninese also means the palace, because at the end of the day, they are inextricably linked together. History and everything, have done that linkage. To not try to, explain it away in that simplicity, a lot of people who are not Beninese may just buy into it and live with that, that error, as it were. Again, whatever we're discussing right now is happening within, the present circumstance that we find ourselves, and within the context, within the context within which it is happening. And that is why too, I'm also taking time to try to explain these things. So, to try to say, if there are no Beninese, of course the people know that if there are no Beninese, the people who make up the palace, from the Oba to the chiefs to the Omuadas, they are all Beninese. From among the people. So it is not like the palace is one human being standing on its own, and the Beninese are other group of people standing on their own. No. These are there are, everywhere you go to in Benin, there are chiefs, there are enigies, there are dionweres, there are the government of the kingdom is a pyramid. The Oba standing on top of the pyramid. We have the chiefs, we have the enigis, we have the youth, we have everybody's all part of the whole thing. So Arati Egwa is not just the king. So that when somebody, who's recalcitrant begins to drag, as they commonly use on social media, the Oba of Benin, for instance, the person is dragging the entire institution that involves the throne, that involves the chiefs, that includes the enigis, that includes the Odionweres, that includes the Igbamas, that includes the Olois, that includes everybody. Because it's a case of one for all and all for one. And that is why an average Benin man would always commonly and easily say, I am a child of the palace of Yoba Eimehim. Even when there is no direct, a link between this average Benin man and the family of the Oba, but commonly the man was, even Pedro himself, in the course of that whole very despicable man, was saying, Ovioba Mehim, I'm a child of the palace. Ovioba Mehim. Every Benin man does that. And for the Iviedo, who may not know, for us to understand some of the context, Oba Oredo is no longer just one figure sitting on the throne. Everybody within the kingdom is sharing a part of this whole institution. That is why, if you are a hard-working person or you are busy, you are doing something, it is easy. I mean, you quickly hear a Benin man says, Obewau, you are king of well-doing. Oba Orewau. You wake up in the morning, or you are up and about in the morning, and somebody says, Obowie, king of the morning, in salutation. You are walking, Oba Orinwina, Obiwina, just to make this thing spread. So that somehow everybody, either by way of salutation or greeting or whatever it is sharing a part of this very big, gigantic, institution, this nomenclature, Oba. So Oba now becomes a matter that extends beyond the throne itself to everybody. Oba will not go. So it becomes a matter for Baudin. And do me where if you do so, in do a sorte, meaning sortena, that we can see a very huge naked dance on social media. And because I'm somebody too who uses his own tongue to count his teeth, I do where money and I've asked myself the question. Some of these young people, there are others who are ignorant, who just see that one or two young Beninese have now become emboldened to insult the palace. As a matter of fact, they've gone beyond insult now. They're now threatening the throne, threatening the monarchy. Issue statements that ordinarily you don't want to hear without any palpable justification that anybody can see. This is why this is justified on equal measure. But they just, whatever they are thinking of is how to insult and how to threaten the palace, the king. And I say this. The King Charles, the King of England, even when the mother was there as the Queen of England, there are some British people that have come out to criticize certain actions. But you can't find a British man come on any media, social media or mainstream media, to rain insult on the British monarch or to threaten the British monarch. It's prison straight away. But people can talk about policies, okay? Journalists talk about policies of the monarchy all the time. You understand the picture from what I'm saying now? And the monarchy is also always looking at the policies that, will favor the British people the most. I have never, without sounding immodest, understand me? That are British passport holders. If do why me right it there, where even though you are originally from Edo State, you have seen one human being on social media, mainstream, anywhere, King Charles or threatening. No one but right now we now have some human beings who we can reasonably say address as Iviedo. Just come out blatantly. Now, the reason why this is dangerous, which is why I want to zero down again to a matter of Don Pedro. The reason why it is dangerous is because whether you hold a different opinion, whether you no longer consider yourself as part of the kingdom, there are still people in majority, in super majority, home and abroad, who still hold this palace in very high esteem. who cannot see themselves separated from the palace. A people who listen to some of these voices, even though they don't say a word, but they are angry, they are sad, and their heart is full of vengeance. Anytime they get the chance to express themselves in vengeance, they would. But it would not mean that Oba Gia or the palace sent them any message. People will avenge because they don't just look at the palace, they look at somebody or some group of people doing damage to themselves, and they want to defend themselves to make a point. A few days ago, Ohame ona nomotakba ona where in other places people get criticized, even monarchies get criticized. What man and Luga here, to play out videos so man, some of these despicable human beings. They will near on social media, near the palace. Where when there's a policy coming from the palace, and people are constructively criticizing those policies, right? There will be nobody no can raise an eyebrow. Some people may even agree with some of those policies. But I mean where there's a difference between criticism and molestation and assault and threat. These people are neither criticizing any policy from the palace, nor constructively doing anything, regarding whatever is happening. Rather, what you see them do is to insult the monarchy, insult the palace, and they've taken a step ahead to threaten. And now only the difference. Now, the king, where why is he still a member of the royal house? Why is this? There was a heavy criticism of that. And at some point, the British palace now acted, and they stripped that guy of his princehood. I eat a prince, and I went no, and it not come from constructive criticism. But what we have right now is some human beings, just waking up every day thinking of what next to do to insult. And when you insult the king, insult the throne, you are also directly insulting the sensibility of the people. And therefore, the way the people will react, even though not excusable, of course, cannot be predetermined. Because people are angry. And when people are angry, they will react. Some of us will come out and say, look, let's not be barbaric. Let's be civilized. And we probably be civilized. How about other people who have very different, makeup, very different background? I'll give you a little example. Some years ago, I can't even now. Some years ago, some people took the picture of Muhammad in France. I also explained this to my wife. A picture of Muhammad in France. A matani ona lead to a riot. Nana Guinea and destroy me, and the Muslim people all over the world arrive over that matter. Do you know why? The reason is because of my not fearing a picture of Muhammad. The meaning that they arrogated to that matter was that where it was an attack on the people's belief. That action was an attack on the people's belief system. And in this life that we live, people will always defend their belief system. Now, Manani Muslim were full of condemning the action of Rihanna. But some of us, man, we understand Well, look, the worst thing you can do is to attack a people's belief. And so what these guys on social media are doing, what they did Clamasi, late to the end of 2025, was to attack the people of the kingdom, the belief of their people. And that belief is rooted in the palace. It's rooted in all that make the palace, the throne. The Oba of Benin is a people's belief system. When you insult the Oba, when you threaten the Oba, you are not insulting the Oba. You are not threatening the Oba. You are insulting the people who believe in this system. And that is what some of these guys are doing. Unfortunately, it is usually alleged that former Governor Obaseki is the one who is funding this whole thing. And for some of the characters, who are really out there, already obvious, where they are very transactional people, very, very transactional. If they're involved in politics, it's because of what they negotiate their way to be involved. If that negotiation does not say true, they disturb the peace of everybody until I do negotiate. They tell me to be involved. So that also presupposed, like somebody argued once, where whatever is happening right now is also transactional, except that where there are a few persons who have also joined the bandwagon. No mahe egiaye. But I'm sorry for them all of them, because there is no way. Either today, and I learned this from I learned this when I was reading one of Mario Puzo's books. And they will just wait for their time to react. Whatever you are saying right now, Emaro that will wait, even if it takes 10 years, even if it takes 20 years, they will wait for their time to react. Why the color of that reaction, whatever it is, may be one that we have to condemn. You understand what I'm saying now? What people cannot stand in the way of is how individuals or group of people are going to react to me not attacking their own belief system, and they want to defend themselves against those things. Sadly, a kingdom made up of people no matter say 4 million. I'm just speculating. From amongst the people. Today, some of these people on social media have made the Benin's a very notorious race. And they are just a handful of people, okay, making all the news and shaking on social media. That they are now classifying all the do's as, and that is not what the Edo people represent. That is far from it. You understand me, Menania? I mean, our Oba is not the only Oba in Nigeria. Even Yoruba, you want Oba. If you are a Muslim, you want Oba, I have not come across a situation where certain human beings have a contract to insult probably the Alafion for you or threaten the Alafion for you or the Sultan of Sokoto. I have not seen. Yeah, the IV Yoruba. Today, some of these few elements, supported by those who are hiding, identifying, making supportive comments and every other thing, are the ones right now, shaking everywhere. Unfortunately, but let me leave that aside. I did mention former Governor Obaseki's name in connection with all of these things. And, a lot of people have, waiting Obaseki, I've heard that a lot of times. Personally, Obaseki, it's just that when you become a public office holder, you must be accountable. Obaseki was a public office holder in Edo State for 8 years. And by rename, you become a statesman, which means that way you are still relevant. You become a statesman. Anything really, anything really who is something that people will definitely, it will be to make headlines. But let me show you something. A couple of days ago, somebody watched my last video. I'm not trying to call him. Okay, but he left a voice message. I'm going to play this voice message. I want to respond to this voice message. I don't know how many more persons will hold that this. Just take a listen. I'm with you, Lana. Yeah.
Message. Monday, 29th at 2:47 p.m.
Comrade, call your. We are here. I'm watching your live program now. They left because I remember when you were campaigning for Obasaki. When Benin of Lagos, you were. Everybody was with you online. I that's gonna go get you. And I'm gonna make sure Benin of Lagos. What happened now that you do not regard Obaseki again? Can you just enlighten us what happened to you and Obaseki? Because the man understanding Obaseki wow. Now why I'm here where I'm not even like what you say just on one me. What you go on one lucky village on one Oshomo level one Osubom one okay village on one Obamujamo one Obaseki I knew Obaseki. I would like you both to let us understand. Or we make don't say any more one. How many of go 1 year? I don't mind to them do. What guy understand the idea doing one guy call.
Okay. So I just thought I will also try to talk about this matter. In the first place, or in the answer for when I will not buy your deal when now in where the what Baseki will do, talking of God Baseki, right? Here by meta, I did make reference to that. First, yes, without apologies, in the events in Osunu during the election of Obaseki and every other thing, and what was presented to us. Some of us were very, very loud in the second term, projecting Obaseki to become the governor of Edo State. I will not say we regret that because the circumstances at that time warranted that we did what we did. If we had known, personally, if I had known where Obaseki I probably would not be involved in that process. You know, it was a man we trusted very well, where all about change do and all of that. And less than 2 years into the administration, you know, okay, guy now this guy is not serious. The guy now, now let me start from somewhere. I have always yearned for a government that would, you know, honestly transform Edo State. You understand me? Honestly, so that irrespective of how Nigeria is, we can have an Edo State that it will be envy of the world. Man, Nigeria is a very corrupt place, but there's a state called Edo State in Yagbania. Obaseki organized, if I'm not mistaken, about 2 local government elections. He desperately stole the people's mandate. Obaseki organized 2 House of Assembly elections. Obaseki eroded the people's will. I had persons who were very much involved in the elections, who were contestants. And clearly, you know, Obaseki, yeah, and probably all your local government in the last one, he went to church and saw women in square 18/18. There was a case of one Derrick Norarigo local government. Derrick was leading. Derrick now a member of a PDP, I think he was. And Derrick, a PDP say I know, right? No, I'm not a member of APC, was he? No, Derrick I a member of Labour Party, yeah. Derrick was leading the vote count with over 6,000 votes. I declare result here. This one example in one of the constituencies. I declare result here. The last constituency here, the polling this thing here declare. Derrick contested against Ovig Benedium, Norias of Assembly right now. The last constituency near here declare. All of a sudden, now declare inconclusive. And that's now where there's a message from government house where why I declare result in you. You know, here we wrong. And for whatever, based on Governor Baseki's instruction, you know, the result no here. You know, flow a 6,000 lead or a Derrick, Naka Canel legitimately, and flow here with toilets. You know, pronounce Ovig Benedium as the winner of the election. It was one of those moments me observe about, you know, former Governor Baseki. Now, on your Bolokwa. So people, you know, he is very good, or he's very or master the art of using social media to sell himself. Even the Buni oh man, he's the best government. This that. You go to Edo State and ask yourself, what did this man leave for Edo State after 8 years? This is not what I'm a MOA or this against the backdrop of Igo no like those states under his administration and the lamentation he left for the states. Or are we going to talk about is this Sapler Road that was under construction for 8 years? Or a Kenwan Road? I mean, even when I saw some people of ordinary Baseki, at the Oceans. One of them, in social media, one after where people now should now report the state of their roads, blah 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 blah. And the question I ask myself is that if Obaseki left good roads in Benin and in Edo State before he left, isn't it too early right now for us to be holding another governor who is just spending 12 months in office responsible? If Obaseki left Edo State roads in a very good position, but today, I've been complaining now about Obaseki address for it. They are still there. Now, if you know you may want to about the critical for Obaseki was because there were things Obaseki said publicly and privately that he was going to materialize, not concerning Edo State. That did not happen. To the extent that we're looking at the state of Nigerian politics, let us remove the fact they don't work to the satisfaction of the people. But allow look at Tinubu now. He's present today because of Emmanuel Temu, the people he raised while he was governor of Lagos State. Oshomole, after over 8 years, is still relevant today in Edo politics. You know why? Because of way no so more Temu not push to different strategic positions. You will be surprised Oshomole will be the next Senate president. Since the past years he had day, you don't even find any Benin man holding a federal appointment. It depends on don't have the blessing of Oshomole. When if you do not, even currently, there is no Benin man on any federal appointment. And yet we just have a Benin man who governed the state for 8 years. Now you take your eye around the state. Well, okay, let's assume where Obaseki or man winner to the satisfaction of the people of Edo State. Where Inuevo Obaseki Temu, we not go now. Emmanuel will not use the power of his own influence as the governor of the state to influence Nayame where he have a position of relevance as far as that state is concerned. I will do nothing. Right now, You just take a look around. Ask yourself, where are the Benins? Where are they positioned? Or is it a case of where Oshomole or whatever I didn't have a way Odubu to become one of the commissioners of NDDC, and our governor went to court, as usually alleged now, it has not been debunked, to go and challenge the federal government where Omaso Dubuegbe, Omavi Okeki no River, and Odubu lost out of that DC, and that was not a Benin man. Obaseki was largely anti-Benins in many ways. You got to go about whole discussion now. Or why not that way? But Benins were very many as commissioners as this and that. That's not what I mean. Other commissioners, I mean, some of them have spoken to me. Other commissioners, they get 50,000 naira as impressed. Many of them are the ones right now even sponsoring campaign against Obaseki because of administration. At the end of the day, over and above all, when you now look at Edo State and what Obaseki left as governor of Edo State, and for some of us who gets much more information on the way, Inigo don't like Edo State. Under Obaseki, there is no governor in the history of Edo State no collected internally generated revenue that Obaseki have a tax near collecting now. Obaseki was getting at some point getting about 5 billion a year. There is no time the Shomoleya declare more than 1.82 billion a year. I mean a month. Obaseki now about 4 to 5, 6 billion a month. Derivation. That's minus the 2 billion or nearly so. Now I get a security vote. Now my question. Osoma Power Plant was sold to us. We campaign with Osoma Power Plant. But for us to now discover Osoma Power Plant is not the property of Edo State government. And yet, even Edo State buy Osoma Power Plant on a monthly basis. Now I give a light to government house, to some offices across Ring Road, stable electricity, and so some businesses. Compared to Igo or Edo State no alive. In fact, if you want to come out that some of us already had wind of, is it where a government is away in here or Obaseki with so much? Now, I mean, women Oviedo, we contract in Oviedo State where supply by they will bring somebody from Lagos, preferably Ovigbo, not the supply by the vet here of Edo State government house. So there is no way. All the information that we gather, no concerning one Obaseki, was huge. I mean, as ignorant people so yeah. It have to thank very much. Or is it the local government fund? Obaseki deliberately ensure a local government. A local government demands 700 Obaseki. How do I live? He administrators or most of the time. And all of those funds that cannot be accounted for. If those funds are truly committed into Edo State, I am sure that where there is nobody that will not see the impact of those funds in Edo State development under Obaseki. That it will be anywhere you will turn to, you will see Obaseki's handwork. But the thing you see, I renovated secretariat, I big secretariat. But I thank him. I'm not taking that thing from him. Secretariat was there long before he came. You have secretariat. I renovated secretariat. The only landmark thing what created problem was that MOA. That's the only landmark thing I see. Abe Obakabaye. A transport this thing. Abe shop right. I think it doesn't exist anymore. I painted stadium a couple of times. Beyond some of these things, Osoma Power Plant right now, Azura Power Plant, we just knew right from what we know where they are all private this thing. There's this one of a controversy in the hotel. Radisson Blue Hotel. Under his administration, his own deputy Okawaka women, why are we spending these billions from Edo State coffers into Radisson Blue? Now, Radisson Blue is not even our own. But in all of these things, if you're about this oil company at a press school, formation has not come out now, women, Obaseki is the highest a shareholder in press school. Or is it even now there a land has now been recovered that the government took from them, now moon a private this thing, and yet the people are not getting any benefit from them. So there is so much havoc that Obaseki did as a governor in Edo State. A very, a highly personalized businessman. Obaseki don't do a key. And to show that Obaseki does not have any respect for anybody, that's why I made the allusion. Where of all the governors that have governed Edo State, Ogbemudia, I used to go to Ogbemudia's house, the 5 Junction. Ogbemudia has a house where you go to meet Ogbemudia. Ali of blessed memory, Ogbemudia of blessed memory. Ali has a house. They've way. Osomole, his house in Iyamo at one time, he should be probed. But that is where he's resident. He governed the state. And indigene on motor, his house. If Benedion governed the state, Benedion is not everybody knows Benedion's house. It's not hiding, it's everywhere in the state. Oyegu is a statesman. How why they don't even. Osarima Osumbo, stately a governor for a few months. Nearly 1 year safe. I only just ask a question where is Governor Obaseki's house? In Benin or in Edo State? Where people cannot see he's a statesman. Or Nigeria Obaseki doesn't have a house in Edo State. As a matter of fact, when he was governor, I did hear where he was in the rented apartment. The government house was majorly his house. Obaseki came as a stranger from Lagos, brought by Osomole. He governed Edo State after 8 years. He also left as a stranger. He's the only governor that has governed the state who has no place of abode in a state where he governed. A leader around him, a leader. The loyalist or a leader, Madomio, where Obaseki na him. Error. A man who came from Lagos on a economic team also he worked his way, he became favored by Osomole. Single-handedly and twisted everybody and made him the governor of Edo State. Now, that's why I asked the question, where's Obaseki's house? Then the matter that hey, this, that, big. Nobody's going to. Nobody. I'm not better than Obaseki. He did not do well. Oh, he did well. Argument here. Blah, 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 blah. Nobody's going to uproot him from his house. But to show where a man who has no respect for even the people he governed. He has no respect for them. He never dwelt amongst them. He came. He did what he did. He used them to do business that he wanted to do as a businessman. And he left. Challenge me to it. Challenge me to it. He's been invited now by the House of Assembly. Amayo niya. Amayo. And we are here. This man may never step foot into into Benin again. Because normally, you don't expect people who expect know you why. No, you have to tell you why. But he has to house. Because Omari, he just saw the land as a business, saw the people as a business, and he used them effectively as a business. This is the area where some people may never forget Oshomole. I mean, may never forgive Oshomole. Because Oshomole or severe Dofi, this conversation that we are having right now. Now, I will not blame him. I probably also thought that maybe he felt that this guy was going to be good for the state. But Obaseki, he's smart. He was a chameleon. He knew what he wanted right from the word go. Now, let me move away from there. Many of you are going to talk about different narratives. Not understanding me, but let me tell you this one. Let me shock you a little bit. The woman, just the reason. Somebody brought you from Lagos, from nowhere, and twisted everybody. Just the same way they know Obaseki try to twisted those people to make Aso become the governor of Edo State. I swear never do it amongst Edo people. He never lived amongst the people. He never do it amongst. He doesn't know the people. The same Obaseki, Obaseki became governor. Will it not shock you? A man who fed you, promoted you, and made you the governor of a state in no distant time. Una bullshit money. Una betray money. Whatever may have happened, let's assume, well, okay, maybe you were right. Oh, yeah, force you were. Go, my hair support you were. You now played your way into another political party, opposition party. I can still remember, Danobi, all of these guys suffering to campaign for you. Danobi, Osho kare yibo, Oyibo kare money, run away, Osho mole the cry. You know, they were campaigning vigorously for you. We will honor. What you did to them was to let us know where, Uma onu rai Edo State to anybody. The same thing you did to Shomole, you did it to somebody like Danobi. At some point, your own deputy who stood by you, I'm putting this on the premise of where everything is bad. But these are the things not characterized. A man of any stand by you. A Captain Osa that were one time with you. Una ye here, swear here. Have a Charlie Temple of I understand past recently. Have a weird all of the people who stood by you. Some with APC, some followed you to PDP. We loud. You treated all of them the same way, the very same way. Because you wanted to be the lone Iroko tree. That nobody should stand anywhere around you. That's Obaseki. Godwin Obaseki. On is not damn. When I was talking about Pedro and the treatment, now look, this man almost became a governor. I can tell you, I take it to the bank. If it was Don Pedro who had the chance that Obaseki had to govern Edo State, I can tell you, Edo State would have been a different state today altogether. You know why? Me now serving a task. Don Pedro ni. I don't why they do. I don't know one. Don Pedro knows the state, not just Benin City, the state inside out. He knows the real problem of the people, and he knows where each of these problems are coming from. If Don Pedro governed Edo State for 8 years, there is no way this imbroglio would have characterized us today. Every little mistake that Don Pedro has made right now, okay, not do I lead to all of this character, what done. Don Pedro want to have distanced himself from Godwin. Godwin now, I'm aware while he was governor. But I also understand, trying to sympathize with family name, trying to create some clarity and every other thing. That is the sin of Don Pedro. Otherwise, Godwin Obaseki, because a man that are getting stipends right now to encouraging now to keep pushing bad narrative about the kingdom. Why am I coming now? Today is 1st of January 2026. I will refer to this again. Why am I coming now? They are all going to regret because they don't know who they are dealing with. Yeah, man. And that's why I be commenting, wow, you are attacking Governor Baseki because they did not give you appointment. I never asked for one. I didn't support Okpewolo. I mean, I was vocal against Okpewolo. I supported Olu Akbata. But Okpewolo became governor. I hear the Gume where look, Lamte respect of whatever happened. Okay, please come and work with us. But I'm a man of integrity. I don't eat my vomit. You know, I appreciate the gesture, but I cannot give myself to such service. That's me. So I never supported Obaseki because I was honestly hugely disappointed because when not Yaoji, that was the case of Obaseki. And Uko of BLN was not because of any personality. I don't owe him 1 naira. One penny. As a matter of fact, the woman mama say you may mosa, but you go to mezel is I said the car. But I reached no negotiation when the campaign was going on. Nothing. Nobody can come out now with me on 1 naira banner in a lamptey or none whatsoever. None. I didn't even give myself out for any such kind of a discussion or arrangement. All we just wanted was where if you are not your campaign, get them done. And they were not being done. And so the guy had a way. No, you use a color B or pushing your money and the car blow a. But you go to Edo State now. There is no way you can be attacking the current governor of Edo State if the man who just left a year ago, made Edo State become a New York or become a Malaysia or become a Singapore. Here you said about here, somebody's listing where all of one account on a road, that's on a road take bad, that's on a road take bad. If the roads were good 12 months ago, are we going to be talking about bad roads right now under a new government? Come on now. And ask yourself, where is that landmark structure that this man, this is a landmark capital project, no Baseki Edo State? Give it all the money this guy received. You gonna keep Paris Club in Noah, you get derivation Noah, you get location Noah, you get IGR Noah, or is it the security this in or you gonna not they borrow a loan Edo State they take on this administration Noah. So we not count these things we are counting right now. Made the way we're counting now, and I'll not compare them to the money that came under his watch. Then I'll look at you as a fool. No matter if not going kind. Then if Okpewolo's administration ends today, it's already competing favorably with Nino Obaseki. If his administration ends today, you already seeing things that you can cut to his name where man, from the scratch. I'm not using this one to give any credence or whatever it is. Okay? But this is the stark reality. I saw a gully erosion where I came out and a gully erosion not a dead in one particular community. And this same government have gone to fix it. Why did Obaseki not even handle this? Obaseki Baba revive Edo Line. Edo Line is a landmark project for Edo State people. I did tell Mawano over the course of many years. He talked about all of the impossibilities. Remember Edo Line they revive. Within weeks or a couple of months of Okpewolo's administration, Edo Line is running in Edo State. People are employed in the Edo Line. If Edo are employed in that Edo Line, this is what I preach to the governor. Revive Edo Line, whatever it will take. But today another government came on board. You told Edo State people worldwide, where you are going to give Edo State a diaspora agency. He said it privately, he said it publicly, he said everywhere. He committed us to work pro bono without being paid. Now you are doing a draft. Diaspora agency run here. People in diaspora were drafted into that committee. They worked day and night for more than 3 months. And do a draft copy. Now sent the House of Assembly. House of Assembly now pass it now into law. I will pass it, the men sat on it. Yeah, appointed DG for the agency. That guy ran the cable down. He didn't do anything. He picked up that document. On our way, where are they? Okay, since 1 away, wow, with this draft, you know the inside out. Yeah, you were sworn as the DG of the agency. That was why the man appointed Loretta as the DG of the diaspora agency today. Within months, actualized it. Obaseki held it for more than 3 years. You know why? Because where Ami Lokovieke ran, he wants to be the only one standing. So nobody can get any this thing. Nobody's competing with you. He was always insecure. Always suspicious of everybody. Obaseki that won the second term when I knew that Felix Shoaibu was going to be impeached at some point. He never liked him. Like he said when you deal with it before the end of this tenure. That is the man Obaseki, a very vindictive person. Anyway. So when you tell me, well, I'm married appointment, who wants appointment? But me, I can't even say how much do they pay? Anywhere, here pay. How much do they pay? If they have to that okay, the commissioner or advisor but yeah, read those things. Doing what? Doing what? Doing what? For how much? No. So my own issue with Obaseki is not about I never wanted it, I never asked for anything. This even anything and I deny me, he didn't know any. I probably will also talk about it where he didn't know now. People are making arguments. Why not the Wahi and Obaseki didn't do this? I didn't ask for anything. I didn't ask. There are people who were also vocal, who were also very, present. You understand the Menania? Who wanted something but didn't get anything. So if I talk about Obaseki, you understand what I'm saying? Look, honestly, if you have any this guy cannot do anything without his own. Then more one one canania. Let's genuine. When more one private this thing, Ovigbo, a colleague you were your own partner, your own Afro Invest is the DG of your own that general Mowa. A new one, I cooperating Mowa. You are signing the certificate of incorporation. And you are arguing with, it's a private distance, private. The private owners are in the move till tomorrow. I'm about to be me and Google. Who is fooling who? Who is fooling who? Or create a problem by somebody was saying, Omonoba where the government was sent by the ancestors. Yes, I stand with the Omonoba to say that. Given the available options that were available, any other person that would have won, I think Omonoba would have made the same expression where you were sent by the ancestors. Any other person, apart from the person Obaseki was projecting, was sent by the ancestors. Because if the palace opens up to you, if Obaseki out Yahweh palace if he had the in one of these is the meeting where he would have just done what some other governors do, dethrone this thing, dethrone the palace. That's what it meant. So it's regretting where finishing the palace in Kekba. So when the Oba said the ancestors brought you, and that's what you people are so ignorant. If Agbata had won, your mom was going to say your ancestors brought anything apart from the Obaseki project was okay. because the palace knew exactly what went down. But many of you don't know. You may never know. Obaseki, Governor Baseki, the man using the water in America, Governor Baseki is not a good man. It's not. Ozebo is convincing, this is that, but verifies, well, even not her. Verify what he's saying. A very transactional man, very, very transactional. Also, I was honestly, I don't owe him anything, so anyway, that said, those state people, now those CNA itangme. There's still a lot of people doing macabre dance. So it's unfortunate. Understand me, Nania? If you're somewhere or where utai holy, understand me, Nania? Do where uta ani nyuwa. Or tell no see me. Or when why worry am I results? It damn I feel so sad that at some point, for this misdemeanor that is everywhere right now, at some point, it results in Ladian one after the other. But I can tell you, by some of the postulations of the mafia, even though it takes 25 years, when an act of vengeance is pregnant, that pregnancy may last for 25 years or 30 years. A day will come, that pregnancy, IBOI. There are people right now who have a lot in mind. No, they can. So have a team man. No, I tally with social media now. I don't know my boom. But why worry? Enough fear or have I when? Enough fear or have I when? And I want to sound this very clear. And the man time your time. The Benin traditional institution, the Benin monarchy, the throne will outlive every human being today that is alive. So this whole nonsense will also pass. It will pass. That throne, all the plan that people are planning, they want to dethrone. Hey, so I don't know what they are doing with Princess Zeleha. I don't know what is even happening from it, but Imani, but one thing is clear. I may be valid do or backba army. Or my call one, I don't wear I sag Morioba and Guasaki ere. Understanding Nania. I call it Princess Zeleha because we're a Daken at the moment. Or I think Daken is going to be the next, to become the Oba of Benin. Oba Wuye Daken. So, but all the drama, people dragging this and dragging that, take note. Obakba, I never do at every given time. Omonobane do at talk be. Omonobane do at talk be. That is what we know, and that is what we'll continue to speak to. And for the rampaging voices to say, oh, this, that, look, what you do not know, don't speak about it. Don't even get excited about it. And I get calls now this day because of the procrastination. I'm back elementary. I say now, look, some of these recalcitrants, they were to hear you hearing now. Eh? Now you will believe at your peril. You are just digging your grave. Because the manufacture of Ori, Noragbo Noreini, who know some of these characters are okay, Ladian. I know it because I know it. But we will be quiet. It doesn't mean that we don't have a lot in our minds. Edo Yuma, if you buy or Edo, the Beninese are very dissatisfied with some of the operational characteristics of some human beings right now. However, Oven, Oragwali Dagbo, the Rease, Oven, Oragwali Dagbo, go and mark my word, the Rease, Oven, Oragwali Dagbo. So for Edo people, ISELOGBE is 2026. Another day, it's January 2026. I want to encourage everybody. Let's not be weary. The seed will be separated from the chaff. I just want to also hope that some of us will take time to ponder. I've also pondered myself, reset and hope that in this 2026 we may start putting on some new clothing. I'll probably be born again. If that happens, it will be also nice, for the benefit of the collective, for the general good of all of those state people. If I'm hearing in at this moment, unfortunately, we cannot appraise the government of Edo State. There are other big news coming out. Peter Obi has now defected and moved to ADC. It's a big story. But I hope that we will not be distracted too much in the coming days so we can begin to look at this. I'm very much interested in how this current governor has fared in 2025. You understand me? And I think it's a matter that I want to look at and discuss at some point. All it is said, then, I want to wish you all a very beautiful and progressive 2026. I want to wish the Oba of Benin and the Palace of the Oba of Benin a very beautiful and progressive 2026. And the Palace is living to the creed. I also want to wish every Benin man, every Benin woman a progressive 2026. We have had a very challenging 2025 on many fronts as a kingdom. Hopefully, God willing, with ISELOGBE, with Tinikau, 2026 will be a much better year for all of us. ISELOGBE. Monoba atokbe. Ise.
Piano, Ogono, when you hear one of your Obabo. Ulogan Ayeri. ISELOGBE. Aquaragbe.
Ìpín sọ̀yányà ìpín wẹ́fà á nà ìrìntì ìpín wẹ́ níyàwó ẹ̀mọ́tọ̀lì gèrè ní gòdèbò.